it doesn't matter if you're three units, 20 units, 500 units, whatever the case may be. You've got to have a sense of being nimble and agile, because we're in an environment that things are changing on a dime. So I think it's trying to figure out within your organization, within the framework, within the size, how can you react, and then how can you prepare to react?
What's up, Zack Oates here, author, entrepreneur, and customer relationship guru. Welcome to Give An Ovation, growth strategies for restaurants and retailers, where we find industry leaders to share their secrets to grow your business. This podcast is sponsored by Ovation, the actionable guest feedback tool that works on or off premise and is easy, real-time, and actually drives revenue. Learn more at ovationup.com. Welcome to another edition of Give An Ovation. I am joined today by Crafton Bryant the fourth. And yes, he does get the award right off the bat for the most dapper dressed podcast guest that we have had on Give An Ovation. So right off the bat, way to go, Crafton. So thank you.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate you having me on today to talk about restaurant marketing.
Yeah. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Crafton. He ran marketing for Metro Diner and Bloomin brands. He now consults and coaches restaurants focusing on marketing. He's opened over 125 different locations over the last 8 years around the country. And really cool, it's not just about the restaurants, but it's about the philanthropy as well. He was the one who started a national charity partnership with the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation and raised over $200,000 for them. So Crafton, not only is he a smart guy, good-looking guy, but also he's a nice guy. So Crafton, so glad that you're on here. First of all, tell us, what's keeping you busy nowadays?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting time. I mean, the age of COVID, everything going on. I've started doing some restaurant coaching, consulting, specifically as it relates to marketing. Actually, myself and a business partner of mine are in the early stages of creating a company that really help small to mid-sized restaurant brands grow, better understand themselves, what they are, what they need to be doing, and just really how to navigate the complex waters of not just the COVID situation, but really the general marketplace as we move forward.
Yeah, because it's crazy out there, man. So when you say like a mid-market brand, let's say I've got 3 to 20 locations. I've been hit pretty hard by COVID. What types of things should I be asking myself from a marketing perspective to start that journey of rediscovering myself?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head with the size organizations that we're really focused on working with. It's the organizations that aren't able to bring on a really strong and aggressive marketing department to help them kind of navigate through these things. So, right now, a lot of what we're focused on is getting restaurateurs who have not put a big emphasis on the off-premise business to shift their mindset of going from inside the four walls to outside the four walls, and for good reason. Restaurateurs have been, a lot of restaurateurs have been slow to go and jump on these delivery platforms because of the sheer cost. Right. So what I focus on is really getting them to think about how they can create the efficiencies within that to still be profitable, and then how they can look at other pieces of the business to grow off premise, whether it's catering or it's X, Y, or Z. But also, what better time for the hospitality industry in general to invest in themselves? Whether you're I always talk about the hotels that are out there, right? You've got a low occupancy rate. Use this time to do things that you can never do when you're running an 80, 90, 95% occupancy rate. Use this time to update your rooms. So in the restaurant space, right? Use this time to make sure that inside of your four walls is exactly where it needs to be, and use it for a time to coach and teach, the team members that you have that are working there to just be more efficient and better at what they do, whether it's, learning wine knowledge or it's better understanding the menu items. You take advantage of the time that you're able to use these team members that know your organization, know your brand, get them outside the four walls. Take them on little mini guerrilla blitzes. I mean, there's a lot of things that restaurants, hospitality in general, can be doing right now to just better build their brand, and then to be prepared for the other side of all the craziness that we're going through.
I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense, because so often we take this time to hunker down, right? A lot of people have retracted, and rightfully so in the beginning, to kind of like figure out what the game plan is, but now leverage this opportunity and help it take you to that next level. I think that's a great point.
It's actually been great. I mean, it's been great for me in this situation to be able to watch these businesses that have made the commitment to do better, to be better, and to really understand, their marketing and what they're doing. And it's created a unique opportunity. And you see a lot of businesses that are hunkering down, but then you also see, and again, it's opened up opportunities for me. I've had some really great conversations, some good meetings with several different restaurant concepts recently that said, we just got to better be prepared. We've got to be ready for today, but we've also got to be ready for tomorrow.
So what does that mean? What does be prepared for tomorrow mean?
We're living in an interesting time, right? And I think it's a lot about being right. Like we know that COVID's happening right now, but what's coming next? Is it a recession? So if it's a recession, like what are you thinking? How are you thinking forward to your menu pricing, menu structures? I mean, how are you thinking about, marketing more effectively and more efficiently, right? I mean, there's all these different things that I think that restaurateurs, especially again, when you don't have a big collective team to be like kind of pulling that brain power together, they get caught in tunnel vision, right? And rightfully so. You ever been in restaurant operations? There's 10,000 things going on at any given time. It is hard to get outside of looking at, is my food quality? And then you just have all these things going on. So it's really coaching and teaching people how to just think a little bit differently, to get outside their box. And then owning the social media space. I mean, that is really one of the biggest opportunities right now that I've seen a huge breakdown in some smaller brands with is not whether it's social content, it's social reviews, it's understanding that we are no longer who we say we are as a brand, or who the consumers say we are. And that's such a key point that I preach and I tell people all the time, is that you got to understand, you can say and do as much as you want, but at the end of the day, the consumer has a very, very loud voice. And you got to take that and channel it.
I've never heard it put that way, but that's so true, right? No matter how much we say we are X, if consumers say we are Y, and that's what they're posting on reviews, that's what they're posting on social media, that's their pictures, it's like, that's what we are. And so if you want to embrace that, great. If you want to fight it, good luck, right? It's like you need to create but there are tools out there to help you really own that dialogue and to help you own that conversation, at least inject yourself into them in a smart way to own your brand. I like how you said that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's such a big thing. And I mean, I always, when I'm sitting down for conversations, I always say, now put your consumer hat on, right?
Yeah.
And then are you going to believe that the brand that's talking to you and preaching and saying, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best? Or are you going to believe the consumer that goes there and then experiences it and then looks at it, through a different lens? So, I mean, it's important, right? In having those tools in place to be able to be proactive about everything that's going on in the social space is going to save restaurant concepts a absolute insane amount of headache, right? If you can offset the negative reviews before they're going out, you're winning. If you're engaging with these people and letting them know that, hey, your voice is heard, you're winning. And that means more to any consumer than any amount of media. And don't get me wrong, media has its place, whether it's, out of home, it's TV, it's radio, all that kind of stuff. But what means the most to the general consumer is a true, genuine one-on-one embrace from the managing partner, the management team, someone affiliated with that specific restaurant that they were at. It's key.
So with that, Crafton, why has that been so hard in the restaurant space to really grasp, in your opinion? Because you go into other channels, you go online, and there's that, like, intercom, right? Little thing on the bottom right hand corner of a website, you click, you chat. This one-on-one has really been taken to the next level. Why do you think it's taken a while to get into the restaurant space?
I think it's kind of twofold. I think it's one. I think it's blinders, and I think it's a lot of times it's an operator or a team of operations that has this negative connotation of what these review platforms are all about, right? And they don't really truly understand how to make themselves better by taking that information in. And I mean, I've seen, with the last organization I was with, we grew it from 12 to over 70 locations. We made big decisions based on the data that was coming in, based on what people were saying, based on our food. We changed entire menus. We changed product lines. We changed our steps of service. We tweaked the business model based on what people were saying in these social channels. That's how important it is. But I think why is the restaurant business slow to adapt? It's because I think it's blinders, and I think they're scared to. I think they think that people are yelling most of the time. But if you look at most concepts, if you look at the reviews that are out there for even just decent concepts, I'm not even talking about top tier, I'm talking about just decent. There's a lot of really good reviews and a lot of really good feedback that comes in, as well as negative. But you got to engage with both sides of it. Somebody takes the time to give you really positive feedback, you need to engage with them. If somebody gives you negative feedback, you need to fix the problems, right? Sometimes it's a server issue, sometimes it's a food quality issue, sometimes it's an experience issue. So there's just a whole lot, and it's not an easy world to navigate through. And I think it scares a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think that, going along with that, one of the things with the restaurant space is that because you always had table touches, I feel like a lot of people felt like, hey, we don't need technology to help us with this one-on-one engagement because we've trained our managers to do table touches. Well, forget about those table touches, right? That nobody wants a manager hovering over their table, breathing on their food, asking them how they're doing. And then I think the other thing is that it's hard when it's expensive to really have this one-on-one engagement. And that was a lot of what we set out to help solve, was exactly what you're talking about, right? Was how do you deliver that one-on-one, that virtual table touch without a huge amount of work? And you could really have technology help you with that, but you can't remove the human element, because hospitality, like Danny Meyer says, hospitality is about that dialogue. It's not about the food. It's not about how the food's delivered. Hospitality is how they feel. And if you
100%.
remove the human element entirely, then all of a sudden, how do they feel? Well, they feel like you talked about unheard, right? And if you're not being heard as a customer and you have a complaint, then, what does it matter how much money you're spending on marketing? Because that's going down the toilet with one bad review, right?
Absolutely. And I think operations leadership gets, and I've been guilty of this myself, is we say 100% table visits, 100% table visits. You got to talk to each and every, one of the consumers, the guests inside your restaurant, you got to talk to them. And I think it sets there's no way that's going to happen in the restaurant space, unfortunately. And I love dining out. My wife and I, we travel all over the country, all over the world. And we've been to some incredible restaurants, but even the best of the best, very rarely do you truly get a manager table visit that is actually engaged, that's actually getting feedback, that's where you're actually giving them something of value to go better their business, right? And that's where technology comes into place. If you don't give up the one-on-one interaction, you don't give up the personality inside the restaurant, because when that happens, I stop going out, because I go out to feel good. I go out to be embraced, right? And I also love good food, but for me, it's the experience. But when you're able to softly interject a technology, where you're able to make it a very easy path for constructive criticism or constructive blessings happen, like that changes the game. And if you can increase the amount of feedback that you're getting, you're gonna evolve your business. It doesn't matter if you are a rock star restaurant with incredible food, you're gonna get key learnings that make you better. But most restaurants aren't in that space. Let's be frank, right?
Yeah.
And they have area of opportunity, and it shows. It just shows consistently.
So what were some things that you guys did with your guest feedback at some of your brands?
Yeah. So what we did at Metro Diner is we we looked, well, first of all, we challenged our operators to engage with every single review that came in. And I tasked them and I challenged them and I reported on it. And if they didn't do it, they heard from me, right? Is like, if someone leaves a review, you respond, and you respond to that person, nothing generic, because that's huge, right? And it shows that you care as an organization. But then what do we do to create change in the restaurant landscape? I mean, we went through the reviews and really we scraped it with technology, but we also read the reviews and took that feedback and we realized we had some shortcomings in some of the flavor profiles in several of our dishes. We realized that some of the dishes didn't, it maybe came out really well, but it cooled really quick, right? Like, we had comfort foods, we had meatloaf and pot pie and things like that. So we realized that we needed to heat the plates. So, obviously we went through a process to get there, but we brought in heaters for the plates. So we started heating all the plates. It's not something we had done before. We heard a lot that, we had very big portions, which is a good thing, but it can almost, there is such thing as too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Yeah.
So we realized that there's some dishes that we could scale back on without affecting the consumer perception of that dish and the size of it. So there was a lot of those things. A big thing for us that we realized is we had a model inside the restaurant where you would walk in the morning, where it wasn't busy for breakfast, and somebody would just tell you to go have a seat. But then they would come back maybe they're there 2 days later at the peak of lunch, and they had a host staff that actually walked and sat you there. And then at dinner it changed as well. And so that kind of threw people off, and they're like, wait, sometimes they're like, they didn't feel love when they walked inside the door because they knew that at lunch that we had it. So, that's where, we had to really work through on how do we make this a better process so it's more consistent and that people feel the same every time they walk in the door.
Now, something that's fascinating to me about all of this, Crafton, is that you're giving all these examples and you come at it from a marketing perspective, right? And the thing I learned from my advertising agency days in New York City is that everything communicates. Marketing isn't what you put on social media. Marketing isn't what you pay for on a billboard. Marketing is everything. Marketing
Absolutely.
is how your bathrooms smell. Marketing is how your food is plated. It's all about marketing is how the guest, what their expectations are of coming in and how those expectations are met to come back. And I feel like I love that you're talking about all of this operation stuff because so often in restaurants, it's easy to get very siloed between operations and marketing. And really, they need to be in very close connection because you can't have the one without the other, and the other doesn't make a difference without the one, right?
That 100%, right? I mean, I've always preached, and I've always been a operations first marketing person, because if you don't have a good relationship with operations, everything breaks down. I got to learn that really quick in an interaction I had with Johnny Carrabba, the original founder of Carrabba's. I got to listen to him speak, and then I had the pleasure of presenting to a group of people right after he did. And he had some negative experiences with marketing in his past, not me, obviously. And so he had shared some of those experiences. So I got up and I got to talk a little bit, to him through the presentation to a group of, 75 people or so. And him and I had some really interesting dialogue about how marketing traditionally had always created almost a division between themselves and operations. And at that moment, something hit me to say, that's not right. If you're not working cohesively and literally in lockstep, things are breaking down. And it's communication. It's strategizing for the future. And then how everything comes together inside the four walls of a restaurant is that blend of marketing and operations. And if the two are not clicking together, there's a big mess.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, when you look at everything that you do in a restaurant, from the ambiance to the paint, to the ingredients, to the menu items, to the visibility of it, to the ads, to the servers, to the training, to the cleanliness, everything goes down to the guest experience, right? And that guest experience is really based on trust, right? Everything is about trust. I trust that I'm going to have a certain experience when I get there. I trust that if I don't, someone is going to talk to me and make it right. And I trust that I'm going to go back there and have that same experience. But when it's siloed, what you often get is a creative group who's coming up with all the things that consumers want to hear. They show up and they're very disappointed by the operations execution of those things, right? And so it always goes back to your story, is making sure that you own your story so that consumers can know what to trust and who you really are.
Absolutely. And I got to say, I love operations. I loved all the operators that I've worked with in my past, because they're the ones that make it happen on a day-to-day basis. And it goes back to that 10,000 things that are happening at any given moment inside of the four walls of a restaurant. And so, I know that they have a lot going on. So it's trying to figure out the best route that they need to take to wrap everything up. And again, it goes back to, your small to mid-sized companies, they're running around. Either you got operations trying to do marketing, or marketing trying to do operations, or, maybe you don't have someone leading either one of them. I mean, that happens. And so you end up in these situations where, that it's just super convoluted. So you got to have leadership that's running in lockstep. You've got to have a partnership between marketing and operations, and you got to have a marketing team, marketing people, marketing partners, whether it's your agencies or whatever it may be that you're working with. They have got to understand operations. That is number one, because I've worked with agencies in the past that they didn't get operations. So the things that they tried to do, which is ultimately what leads back to that Johnny Crop conversation, is there was these really good ideas in theory that didn't pan out real well, right?
Yeah.
And so it caused this tension. Those are the things that you got to stay away from. And so you've got to have either a filter between the ideas and operations, or you've got to have partners in place that understand the cause and effect of certain marketing things.
Love that. So, Crafton, here are my takeaways. 1, use this time to update and level up the employees, the location, and even yourself. 2, react and prepare to react. Really, really consider your off-premise. 3, own your social space. You aren't who you say you are. You're who your customers say you are. I think that's really interesting. 4, make sure that your consumers feel heard and increase that amount of feedback. And then lastly, markerations, right? It's not marketing, it's not operations. The two need to be in lockstep, whether that be a single person or whether it be people that are working together, whether that be that filter between the two, whatever you need to do to make sure that you don't have two organizations, but you have one team. So Crafton, how do people follow you?
Hey, check me out on LinkedIn, Crafton Bryant. Welcome to send me an email to creating conversations. It's crafton.bryant@gmail.com. We're going to have some really exciting news coming out here in the next couple of weeks about future opportunities and building the brand and really ways that we can help restaurant operators and marketing teams get better and be better and plan for the future. I'm going to follow up with what you said and just challenge anybody who's listening right now. Use this time to really think about where you want to be tomorrow, but more importantly, where do you want to be down the road? There's a lot of opportunity. There's really good partners. You're listening to Ovation right now. They've got great products. Really think about where do you really want to be and how are you going to scale your business, whether you're a single one-off location, whether you're a mid-sized chain, whether you've got 1,000 units. Evolve or die.
I love that. Consider thy ways, oh man, right? So Crafton, today's ovation goes to you, not just for being a rock star and a great dresser and for being the fourth, because how often do you meet someone who is a fourth of anything? Crafton Bryant the fourth, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate what you're doing to get the good news out there about marketing, operations, teamwork, improvement. Love your message. Love your energy, man. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
Glad you're with us today, and thank you. Thank you to the risk takers, the troublemakers, the crazies who are keeping this world clothed and fed. You're the ones who deserve an ovation. Again, this podcast was sponsored by Ovation. To see how we can help you grow your business, go to ovationup.com. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, remember to give someone in your life an ovation today.